My name is Angèle Taylor. I'm a strategic solutions architect here with 4Point. And today on 4Point Pathways, I would like to discuss the idea that you should be demanding more from your forms. If you saw our previous video, I discussed the idea that documents are not responsible for the customer experience of the data capture. The idea being that the data portion and the record portion are different. So today I want to spend some time talking about forms. Just like I did in the document video, I want to go ahead and define what a form is. A form is a structure with space in which you can write or select content. So if we rephrase this, it's your data capture, right? There are many different ways to go ahead and ask people how to gather the data that you want to collect about the people. If we want to do a survey, we can print out a document and it can have checkbox fields that they can submit into. We could have them have a free form text where they could just write. We could call them and they can answer it over the phone. They could write us a letter. There's multiple different ways that we can capture this data. And the data itself has nothing to do with the way that we display the data in the actual document at the end. But I want us to think a little more critically about forms. Typically what people do is they have a list of elements that they need to know to be able to create the final document. And so the easy route is let's just give them that document so that way we ensure we got everything we need. The problem with this, and there's a handful of problems with this. The big problem is it's not user friendly. It's easy. I'm not going to deny that. You've already got it once. Let's just use it. But it's not user friendly in any sense of the word. And I'm sure we've all filled out a bad form. We remember the bad forms, right? I remember when I went and I bought my house and we had to go, I had forms that I had to fill out from the lawyer, from the bank, from the home inspector gave us some forms, the real estate agent, tons of forms. The biggest thing that bothered me specifically is how redundant the information was, especially when I was at the bank portion of it. The bank knows who I am. I am not a new customer here. You know who I am. Why do I need to tell you all of this contact information? You have it. But still, I have to fill out my name, how many times throughout the entire document, which leads me to the second point. First one being that you already have my information and you're asking me to fill it out again. But the second point, I have to fill out the same information over and over and over. You know my name, I don't need to write it 5 times. Other things that cause problems with your forms, fill in here, but don't fill in here. That whole architecture of the form is doing too many things, and it is complicated for me to know how to fill it out. Whether it's because there's a section at the bottom that this is for internal use only, or if you're doing a renewal, or if it's a new application. This kind of tree structure is super confusing, and people often start filling it out and realize, oh no, I wasn't supposed to fill this section out, and then scratch it out. If it's a digital version, they're a little less, they have a little more fluidity there, and they don't actually have to scratch anything out. They can just remove it, which is a nice step. It is a step in the right direction. But why do I, as the user, have to deal with all of the confusion of where am I supposed to put information? What is needed from me? Another thing that people need to start considering is how people access forms. If I go back to that loan or when I bought my house and I had to fill out all kinds of documents, I had to print most of those documents. I mean, the bank hit their version out when I got there, but from the real estate agent, I had to print those ones out. From the home inspector, I had to fill those out. And I did have to print those. They weren't just for my own personal copy. They weren't the document. These were still forms. I had to fill out information, and then I had to scan it and send it back to them. I had to print it. I just want to make sure everybody is on board with what had to be done. I had to print it, fill it out, and send it back. It's more than a little bit frustrating, especially because as a consumer, I know that there are better experiences out there. I shouldn't have to print it out, fill it out, resubmit it. Another thing that people need to start considering is mobile access, right? People nowadays, they don't use their laptops anymore. We don't. It's more convenient to be able to fill out things on our phone. And for things that are big purchases, like if we're looking at the house, if we're buying a house, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get my laptop out. I'm going to fill it out. I'm going to print it out because I have to. It's a big purchase. It needs to be done. I'm going to do it. I'm thinking more little purchases. What happens if I wanted to open a tax-free savings account, or if I wanted to enroll in a new credit card or something along those lines? If I have to open up my laptop, fill out the form, print it out, sign it, scan it back, email it back, I'm far less likely to do it. Do I really need this new promotional thing that was advertised to me? I might be less inclined to do it. And I know I'm not the only one. Statistics have started to show that younger generations want to do more on their phone than they want on their laptops or desktop computers. Also, people are expecting more from organizations. People think just because they're forms, they can get away with not having to update them. But the problem is that as consumers, and I'm sure you can attest to it as well, if you have had a good experience or a bad experience, you will remember it. If it's a mediocre experience, it's mediocre and it gets lost in the pile. But if you've had a good experience, you're like, oh yes, I filled out that form and it was great. Or I did an online purchase and it was super easy to get done. You'll remember that. And you will compare that to all of the bad examples. And if it's a bad example, it stands out. And companies are losing customers because they want better experiences. They demand better experiences. I will go elsewhere. I will take my business elsewhere if it is more convenient for me. And that's something that we have to keep in mind, that we want to make sure that our customers are getting the best customer experiences. All that said, we've looked at the idea that the customer experience, the data capture, is distinct from the document. So that is not a reason why we have to give them a bad document for their customer experience. But there's more to it from a business perspective than just making sure your customer is happy and you're getting your customer retention. There's many other features, and I want to go in depth with that in our next video to talk about, from an organizational perspective, what benefits does a company get if they're going to take the time and effort to modernize their data capture for their customers. And I hope to see you then.